Good morning, all. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Good morning. So today we will take up this topic called classes and objects. Fine. So before that, I just want to ask Sai, can you come online and could you please summarize what we have learned yesterday? Sayak Mandal, please.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So what we learned yesterday?
Sir, you did a program on keys.
Yes. Very good.
Then you used the nested if function.
Okay. Nested if function I used. Yes.
Yeah. Then you did some program on curves.
Okay, so graphs. Okay, so some curves I just presented. Good.
Yeah, like
Uh,
energy, energy
Energy.
units.
So energy units we had. Then using that energy units, what we calculated?
So customer bill.
Okay, customer bill for each customer we have calculated. Very
We
good.
used the matplot library.
Matplotlib library we used. Yes, yes, very good. I think you covered all the points. Okay, Varshita, could you please come online and add some more points? What Sayak mentioned? Varshita,
Sure.
could you please add some points to what Sayak said?
So we learned about saving something saved
Okay, okay,
and the maintenance.
okay. So what maintenance? Okay, fine. Uh, so try to execute whatever programs I do. Try to take program and execute. But for your reference, I'll upload all these programs in. All these classes content will go to GitHub, and from GitHub you take it. Okay, so at any point of a time, so whatever program I do in the class, everything I'll upload it to the GitHub. So I'll share the GitHub my repository name. You can start taking all the programs and work on. So I'll share all my notebooks, whatever I discussed in the class. Is that fine? So, okay. So now today we'll take up a topic called classes and objects. Okay. So could you please anybody can anybody tell what is classes and objects? Vikrant Nath, can you come online and say what is classes and objects?
Sir,
What is classes and objects?
no idea, sir.
Yeah. So your voice is not audible. You can mute yourself. Ryan James. Ryan James, could you please unmute and say what exactly these classes and objects are? So your voice is not audible. Could you please speak? So everybody should be in a position to talk. So you set your microphone, a speaker, and all those things. So you have to answer to my question. Ryan,
Sir,
can you come online?
hello.
Yes, speak.
Sir, class is a keyword.
Okay.
Object is a base of class.
Okay. Okay. Let us Let me give the some explanation for this particular classes and object. See, classes and objects are very important in any programming language. In fact, everything is evolved as a classes and objects. So whatever people say library, MATLAB library, or no Python library, or no C++ library, or Java library. So everything is basically classes. So any program you download from the net, any program. So all those programs basically classes. Okay, somebody will write a classes and they will give it. Okay, so then what happens? You are taking that particular classes and using that particular classes, you are defining the object. You are creating a object. Okay, which is nothing but the instance of class. How we have to understand this classes? This classes is nothing but kind of a data type. Say for example, you are defining int a is equal to 10. So what exactly happens when you define int a is equal to 10? When you define int a is equal to 10, okay, inside a memory, okay, so one memory space will be created, okay, inside a RAM, okay, or heap memory. So a place, in some register, in some memory location, some space is created, and that particular value 10 goes into that particular memory. Okay, so and also there is some address is also there for that particular memory. So address and the placeholder and the place inside that particular address. So address and data. So these two things will be there. So when I say int a is equal to 10, so in one address, a 10 will be stored physically. So this is what exactly happens. So when you create a is equal to array 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then what happens? Inside a memory, a sequence of addresses will be allocated, and when in every memory, that value will go and it will sit. Array element will go and it will sit. Okay, sequentially. So that is what happens when you create an array. So now the thing is, in any programming language, we have to create a lot of variables. Okay, we have to create a lot of variables. All those variables will go and it will sit in a RAM. So now the thing is, say there should not be any overlap of the variables. Say I am also defining a variable, some other programming is also defining a variable. There should not be any conflict. So that's why what they will do. So to create some isolated variables. Okay, that is nothing but instances. So inside that particular instance, they will pack all the variables and functions. Okay, and they will allocate some memory. Okay, say similar to integer, this objects what you have created from the classes also sits in memory. It occupies some memory, and so that instance, that object will be available for the user. Okay, and automatically operating system will take care of the memory management, as well as the programming language compiler also take care of some automatic memory management. Then what happens whenever the scope of that particular object or variable is not there, then all those variables will be cleared from the memory. Okay, so that is how it works. So now the thing is, inside a memory, these objects are distinct. So say for example, you can create n number of objects from a same class. So all are distinct. So there is no overlap. So that kind of isolation is there. And all objects are sits in different places in the memory physically. So that is one advantage of this particular object. So now the thing is, every process, everything is defined as a function. So instead of creating anonymous function, what they will do, they will create instance of that particular function. Okay, not they won't use a function. Once you get into that particular function, anonymous function, so other person also can use the same function simultaneously. That kind of overlapping is there. But in case of this objects, the functions, a copy of functions are the process. The copy of process will embedded to this particular object. So that is one advantage of this particular object. So that is why. So and also we know that that all kind of operations what we do, it is different, and also the operation involves different parameters or different variables. Okay, and all the variables are different type of data types. So you have different types of variables and different types of process. And all these things will come inside this particular objects. say for example, if I consider image processing, so now what I have to do? I have to write a class. So using that particular class, I have to create a object. So what that object should contain? There should be a provision to read image separately, and there should be a provision to recognize the face in that particular image. So this entire thing should be separate. So variable is basically some matrix, image matrix, and also you see the process. The AI techniques is a process that is basically some function. So this function as well as the data is separate for this particular object. So that is how you have to understand. So class is common, but using that particular class, you are creating the instance of that particular class. So whatever you program you take, okay, so there will be class. So you will be importing class. Okay. So if you are taking up any project in Python or any programming language, there you have to import classes, and you have to create a classes from the you have to create an object from the classes that will be there. And in all Python program, there will be something called dot convention. Okay. So you'll be creating object dot. Okay. So your object dot followed by your variables or functions will be there. So this kind of nomenclature you will find in many places. So that is nothing but classes and objects. Okay. So try to take some examples from the internet, some Python program from the internet, and see. Try to identify the classes and object. So why this is important? Because once you understand, okay, this particular library, okay, this class is available. So these functions are available. This functions require this parameter. So this kind of understanding you should have, okay, before modifying any Python program or writing any new program, or understanding what kind of functions that particular third party is providing, and all those things. If you want to do so, you should have a clear cut idea about this particular classes and object. So you understood some understanding on this particular classes and object. Many advantages are there on of this particular classes and objects. I'll tell you in when I demonstrate. Yes. Yeah, somebody said, Amruta said, object is a collection of data. Yes, it is true. It is a collection of a data, instant of data, and also it is a collection of function. That is the one extra thing what you have to think. Of course, if it is just the collection of data, so what we can use, we can simply use some arrays, or structures, or some dictionary variable. But here we are combining data as well as function. That is the one beauty of this particular classes and objects. Yeah. Any other questions? If you have any on classes and objects, because you should know this classes and object, and identification of this class and object is very much required. So I'll just so for your understanding, I'll just showcase one random file from the internet. So Python. Okay, so some I'm just randomly giving AI technique or robotic program. Some random program I'm taking. I don't know. Okay, so I'm some random program I'm taking. So if any source code is there, let us see. This is all function what they're defining. I think this is basically the library what they are defining. I didn't find any source code. Okay, so I am not finding any program source file. Okay, I'm not finding anything. Okay, so see some project they have done. Okay, if they are using, you see here. Okay, so they have done some program here. So in this particular program, what is classes and object? Let us try to understand. So can you see one Python program is? Can you see a Python program in front of you? I just opened one PDF file. Yes. Okay. Now here you can see import rpi.gpio is there. So that is nothing but your class. Okay. That is nothing but your class. What is object? You're using a word called as. If you use as, then whatever the word text you type, that will be the object. Now GPIO is the object of the class rpi.gpio. So that you are importing. Now in this particular case, when you go to the code, you see they are using something called GPIO dot, GPIO dot. Okay, this one you have to understand. GPIO dot. What does it mean? Object dot class. So that is what you have to see. So GPIO is the object, and that is created using this particular class. So RPI dot GPIO. That's all. Now here you see one more class they are using. They are using time. Time is a class. So where exactly they are using this particular variable? Can you see here? So here they are using one this particular object they are using. You can create an instance of that particular class. They are using directly the class plus class dot sleep. What is sleep? Sleep is basically function. Okay, so sleep is basically the function which is present in the time class. Okay, and this particular sleep function required one parameter to be passed. So that is what you have to understand. In similarly, if you see the other one, so GPIO is the object, dot set mode is a function. Similarly, you can see in this particular class, set mode is a function, setup is a function, output is a function. So all these things are the function present in this particular rpi.gpio library. So this is how you have to see. Even if you take up any other program or example, so you should be in a position to identify the classes and objects. So you understood how to identify classes and objects inside a program, any Python program. So if you got this idea, just say yes in the chat box. So if you need any clarification, please ask. Because once you identify classes and object in a program, then modification of that program is easy, and all the things whatever you do, that skill you required. So normally you don't write any program from the scratch. Always robot program you'll be downloading. If you want some AI technique program, you will be downloading. Then the first thing what you should have is to modify the code. So for that you should be in a position to identify which one is variable, which one is object, and which one is function, and which one is a argument. So if you got this idea, then any Python program you can modify, or you can create your own. That is why you require this particular skill, identification of classes and objects, and how they are using which functions they are using in that particular object. All those things you should have a clear idea. So with that, okay, I'll take up one simple example, okay, of creating one class using the Python. So I'll take up one one example. I'll create a class, and I will create an object. Okay. So I think what example I'll take is this. I think everybody knows DC generator, right? So I'll just, Priyanshu, can you come online? Priyanshu Shukla? Priyanshu Shukla? See, I will mark absent if you are not responding, please. So Namita Jeslet,
Yes, sir.
you know DC generator? You studied DC generator? You got the question?
Yes, sir.
So what is the induced EMF in a DC generator? What is the equation? So what is the induced EMF in a DC generator? So can anybody in the crowd tell what is the induced EMF in a DC generator? What is the equation? One person, please. Any one person? Nobody knows?
Sir, EMF equal to N into d5 by dt.
That is the basic one. So now after that, when you derive for the DC generator, then what you will get? What ultimate equation you will get?
Sir,
Phi
N by 60 into Z by A.
yes. Phi Zn, okay, by 60 into P by A, correct? So where phi is the flux and Z is the number of conductor, N is the RPM, and P is the number of parallel path. Okay, so poles, and A is the number of parallel path, correct? E is equal to phi Zn by 60 into P by A. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
sir.
So, and also we know that P is equal to 2 in case of number of parallel paths is equal to 2 in case of wave winding, correct? And in case of lap winding, so A is equal to P, correct? Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So now I'll use this one. Say, for example, I want to create a class. I want to create a class to calculate the EMF induced in a DC generator. Okay. I want to create a class to calculate the EMF induced in a generator. Okay. So that is what I have to do. So the statement is, I want to create a class, okay, for the induced EMF generated in the DC generator. Okay. This is the question. So how to do the same thing in the Python? So now I think I can't write program and I can't showcase to you, but still I can. But I already practiced that particular program, and I'll just explain to you. Then you just comment on that particular thing. See, here I written one program. See, this is the program. Now see, I created one library. Now you should be in a position to understand. So this DC generator is basically one file present in that particular folder. So when you open that particular folder, you should be in a position to see the classes. So hope you are seeing this particular class. Now my program, I want very simple. So what is that program? I'll import that library. Okay, I'll create a object and I'll try to see the report. Okay, so now the thing is, say for example, I'll input something like some parameter like 1, 2, 3. Okay, fourth one is a lap winding, and then I'll pass some parameter. So when I run this particular program, you see it is printing something like this. So is 1 Weber, Z is 2, and RPM is 3. Winding type is lap, poles 2, and parallel path is T. If you pass these parameter to the equation, okay, then you will get EMF, induced EMF as 0.067 volts. So this output I am getting. So this is how I want output. You can see my code is very simple. So what I'm using, I'm importing that class. I'm creating an object. Okay, using that particular object, I'm printing some output. Okay, so if you don't use this particular thing, still the DC gen object is there, na? So that holds the entire information. Okay, so only 3 lines of code does entire thing. But ultimately, in the backend, we have created that particular library. One has to create that particular library. Now, I'm expecting, say, for example, in future, even I am also planning to publish a complete electrical library for Python platform, so that in future everybody can use that kind of library, this kind of library. So in their academics also they can use this library. So if anybody interested to work with me, you can always connect to me, and we can build the library for the electrical domain. So let us publish, and it will be very good. Okay, so now you see here I created one simple code. Here we should be in a position to identify what is class and what is object. Definitely DC generator is file name. Under that I have a DC generator. Inside that you have a DC generator class. This is the class name. Using that particular DC generator class, you are creating one object, that is DC gen. So using that particular DC gen, you can see DC gen dot is there. After that, you have one word, report. That report is basically the function present in that particular class. Okay, you should be in a position to understand this much. So which one is class, which one is object, which one is the function present in that particular class or object. So any clarification at this particular point? Then I'll go to that creation of the class. Ultimately, I'll tell you, you have to create a class in such a way that within 1 or 2 lines, everything should work. Say, for example, you want to create a AI techniques library. You write program. Ultimately, other person should write only 2 lines to to execute his work. So that is how you will do. So in the similarly, I also did one program. I just had to use only 1 line to do all the things. Okay, if you don't have any questions, then I'll come back to this, how it is working. So how I'm creating a class. Now I'll just go to this particular code. So you can take some time and try to understand this particular code. So there is a keyword called class, which is very similar to your C++. So in C++ also, you use something, some keyword called class followed by the class name. Here also you have to use the same thing, class followed by the name of the class. Then you have to give semicolon. There you will open the flower bracket, correct? So then after that, inside a class, what you do, you give data member and member function, and the constructor will be there. Can anybody tell what is constructor? It is very important. Can anybody tell what is constructor in C++? Can anybody tell what is constructor in C++? Forgot? Mohammed? Come online and tell me what is constructor in C++.
I don't know, sir. I have not studied C++.
Okay. Nobody studied the C++? Okay, I'll tell you. Okay.
Constructor is a special type of function where we initialize all the global variables or local variables in a program.
Yes, very good. Okay, so that is what the constructor does. Constructor is a function which is executed when you create an object. So when you create an object, immediately constructor will execute. The constructor function will execute whatsoever. If you have a constructor in your class, okay, now here in my program you can see. So where I am creating constructor, this DCGen is the object. So using this particular statement, I'm creating a object. So when you are trying to create an object, at that point of a time, the constructor function will execute. You no need to call separately. So whereas other one you see dcgen.report, that report function is there. That I'm explicitly calling that particular function. Whereas the constructor will execute when you are creating an object itself. So that is one thing what you have to remember. So whatever the necessary global variable, whatever variable you require, you will be keeping all those variables. Once you create that particular object, whatever necessary things you keep in entire things in a constructor function. So in Python also, the constructor function is always written like this. So the constructor name is always double underscore init double underscore. That should be the name of your constructor. In case of C++, okay, the name of the constructor and the name of the class should be same. And in Java also same thing. So the name of the class and name of the constructor, okay, both should be same. The name of the class, if it is GC generator, and the constructor name should be DC generator itself. Okay, so the same name you have to follow. But in Python, you just have to use double underscore init underscore double underscore. So this is what you have to use. So now whenever you find this one, so this is a constructor. That means what? Whenever you execute, whenever you create an object, this function will execute. Let us see what exactly happening in this particular function. Now you see here in the constructor, so if you want to give any parameter to the constructor, you have to give the parameter to the class itself. That is one you have to remember. So if you want to pass any parameter to the constructor, then you have to pass parameter to the class itself. So now here you can see 6 parameter I'm passing to the class. So when I'm creating a object, at that particular time 6 parameter I'm passing. So I'm passing parameter to the class. Those parameter will be taken to the constructor. Now see, for example, initially what I'm doing, I'm just checking whether the length of that particular argument is 0. So definitely not. So now here 6 parameters are there, 6 argument is there. Okay, so definitely this is not 0. So this block will not be executed. Then other if else if block, what I'm checking whether the number of argument is greater than or equal to 5. Okay, definitely this block will execute when you create an object. What exactly happens in this particular object? Let us see. So in this particular object, now there is one word called self. Self is basically, in Java, it is this, they'll use something called this. In Python, they'll use a word called self. Self means that particular class, So this is applicable for, for all the functions present in that particular class. So if you use self.phi, whenever you change that self.phi or self.z, so that z is available for all the function. So now you see self.phi, I am taking the argument 1. Now when you see the class, first argument is 1. So this 1 value will be stored in the variable phi, the class variable. Okay, the data member. So phi variable holds 1. Similarly, second argument, third argument, the index you see 0, 1, 2. Okay, it is not 1, 2, 3. Okay, first argument saves in phi, second argument saves in z, third argument saves in n. So like that, I have given 6 parameter. Now you carefully you see here, the 4th parameter is coming to winding type, W type. Okay, so and based on that, what I'm doing, if W type is lap, if user provides lap, then what happens? Okay, so what I have to consider. So P should be equal to A. P should be equal to A. Otherwise, if it is a wave, okay, if it is a wave, the number of parallel path what I have to consider is only 2. So pole is whatever you passed, the number of parallel paths is only 2. So this is how you have to see. Depending upon that, okay, whether 1 argument it has to read or 2 argument it has to read, it will decide. So in case of lap, 2 argument I am reading. In case of wave, I am reading only 1 argument. then in the constructor itself, so if you are not providing anything, everything will be 0. Okay, if you are providing some data, then see I'm using that E is equal to 5Zn by 60 into P by A formula. So I'm calculating E there itself. So whenever I create a object, if I pass a parameter, when creating a object, the EMF will be calculated. EMF will be calculated. So that is what happens here. When I create an object, then EMF will be calculated automatically in the constructor itself. Okay. So then coming to the report. So then what I'm doing, that object name dot report I'm using. The report is a function. Now I'm calling some function. Let us go to that function, what it is doing. So I went to this particular function called report, and you can see it is just printing. It is just printing. Phi is equal to that, you can call this as a, class namespace variable or global variable, something like that. Okay. So now I'm printing that particular phi, Z, N, binding type, okay, poles and parallel paths and EMF, whatever it is calculated. Okay. So this is what I'm doing. Now, if I pass a parameter and if I try to execute this particular function, then I'll get this one, this equation. So even if you change this particular parameter, depending upon that, your output will vary. Can you see? Depending, you can give any logical data, then it will provide the proper, output. Okay, say you can provide something like 1500 RPM. Okay, so number of conductor maybe 100. Okay, so you are using lap winding. Okay, so Weber, say you can use any milliweber. You can see this is the EMF induced in a DC generator. Okay, so just one executing one formula, but we are used object and classes. Now the thing is, n number of times, if I want to calculate for other generator, I can create other object. Okay, I can pass different variable. Okay, I can pass different variable. I can run this one. So for both the generator, it gives the result. So that is the advantage of creating a object and classes. Now I no need to worry too much. I just want to know what are the things I need to pass to that particular object. Now say for example, there is one more provision is there. So what is that provision? So normally it is not recommended to keep all the functions, operations inside a constructor. Define all the variables and try to create a function separately. So for that particular purpose, now what I did, if a user is not passing any parameter, okay, he's not passing any parameter. So he's just creating an object. Now you can see whenever he is creating a object without passing any parameter. So basically it is executing this code. If argument is 0, everything is becoming 0. Okay. So in that way object is created. Then what you do, okay, so the report also it is printing because all variables are 0, report is also 0 only. Now what I did here, so I created one function. I created one function called EMF. Okay, EMF. Just see, similar to what I did in the constructor for the second type, the same code I added here. So I am taking the argument from that particular function. I'm assigning to different variables. I'm assigning to different variable, and I'm just calculating. I'm just calculating the EMF induced. Okay, I'm just calculating the EMF induced in a DC generator. Now for that, what I have to use, I just have to pass. Say for the EMF function, I just have to pass, say this parameter. So fourth parameter is say say lap winding, and then you just want to pass the number of poles and lap winding. So it will take automatically. Now you can see here. So here what different thing is happening. It is not executing the constructor. It is executing the function. That function is taking some parameter. Okay, so it is accepting that parameter, it is going to the function present in that particular class, and it is executing, and it is coming, and it is reassigning all variable, and then it is coming to the report function, and it is printing the variable. So that is what happening in this particular case. So in this way, okay, so you can create a classes, and you can keep a functions, okay, and you can import that particular class, and you can create an object, and you can work on that particular object. So this is how you can work on the classes and objects. So now what are the things we learned? We learned how to create a classes. Okay, what is init function? It is basically constructor, and we also understood how to change the variables of the function, and also we understood how to identify the parameter, what we are passing to the constructor or to the some specific function. So I'll pass this particular things, take some time, run this program, understand in a deeper sense. I'm sure if you understand this particular problem, okay, so you can take up any program, and you can tune, and you can work on that particular program. So that is what the learnings from today's lecture. Is there any clarifications required for now the thing is, we started with the question. So I want to calculate the EMF induced in a DC generator. Can we do that? So using this particular package, yes, it is possible now. So now answer is yes. So it is also very simple now. So calculation of induced EMF in a DC generator is possible using this particular program. So we answered that particular question, what we answered in the what we created in the beginning. So now I just want to take some questions from the class. So everybody understood this one, or any clarification required?
Sir,
Yes. Yeah.
sir, like when we are taking this library DC generator inside this program, or we are calling this library,
Yes.
so we can define the object in the first line only now using that as keyword.
Yes. Yes. That is also possible. That is correct. You are absolutely correct. So what you can do, import. So only
It will
one
mean the
class.
same thing, no, sir.
Yes, you can. You mean to say DC gen, correct? Fine, na? Same thing. Import DC generator as DC gen, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So you can use this, syntax also. Both are same.
Thank you, sir.
Some things are there. Just I'll fix it. So any clarification? So if you don't have any question, you can leave class. And if you have any questions, stay back and ask. No problem.